There's been an unsettled, ambiguous quality to Justin Trudeau's leadership from the very beginning. We never quite know where the needle is going to fall. Does he earn all the attention getting because he radiates inspired, mature leadership? Or because he's one of those famous for being famous types? Is the Trudeau phenomenon fandom, or is it a wild response to genuine leadership? Well, the selling of Justin Trudeau to a ladies' evening last week, $250 a pop, to see the real Justin and quiz him, just for ladies, mind you, tends very strongly to the Johnny Depp, not Churchill side of the equation. The ladies had questions. What's your favorite virtue, Justin? Who's your hero? Questions of real sting and depth, perhaps only surpassed in vigor by, are you a brunch person? Or Chardonnay. Do you think it really goes with fish?
I have a life goal of trying to be as awesome a dad as I am.
I don't think we need special powers in Quebec. I'm as good as you are, Barbara. I'm as good as any English-speaking Canadian from any province. And I believe most Canadian young businessmen, artists, writers, performers, sportsmen, they think they're as good as anyone. Who needs special powers? The politicians. They're the ones who want special powers naturally, because they're in the power game. Women, men, black, white, Catholic, Jewish, Protestant, they're all equal under the charter. Now, what about these politicians saying, well, we need special powers? I don't need politicians with special powers to protect me, because I'm no weaker than you are, and I don't need to be more protected than you are.
Would you leave Quebec out long term?
It's not out, Barbara. Don't use that silly word that's
used on the CBC. Would you leave them unreconciled? Would you leave them unreconciled?
Mr. Peckford's unreconciled because he wants jurisdiction over fish. Why have you left him unreconciled? Why have you left the Premier of Alberta unreconciled, who wants a Triple E Senate? Premiers are always going to be unreconciled. They'll always be asking for more.
But there is no question that this happened because there is someone who feels completely excluded, completely at war with innocence, at war with a society. And our approach has to be, okay, where do those tensions come from?
In the past 10 years, the Liberal Party has lost the Jewish vote to Stephen Harper and the Conservatives, and it's not very likely that Trudeau will be able to win them back, especially in the 2 years before the next election. It's politically smart for Trudeau to wedge against Harper and Israel and the Jews by going to scoop up the anti-Israel vote in Canada. There are now about a million Muslims in Canada compared to just 350,000. It makes sense that Trudeau chose as a senior advisor a Saudi-born Arab-Canadian activist named Omar Al-Jabra. Al-Jabra used to be the president of the anti-Israel group called the Canadian Arab Federation.
The Bangladeshi to the Pakistani to the Maghrebien to the Sunna Wahhabi Mosque.
I don't think Trudeau means a word of it. I think he's just being a dramatic actor, just like his wife and his mom were when they posed for their Muslim photo. I mean, just last week, Trudeau's social media manager, Ashley Martin, tweeted that religious people are less intelligent than atheists. She has mocked the Pope before, too. She hasn't been disciplined by Trudeau's campaign. Of course not. Senior advisor Omar Al-Jabra is not. He'll send Trudeau to Wahhabi mosques, have the Trudeau women pose in hijabs, and perhaps even have Trudeau take the pledge of conversion. I don't think Trudeau means any of it, which is just as terrifying as if he meant all of it.
Addressing the annual Al-Quds Day rally on Saturday in Toronto, the former president of Palestine House called for, and I quote, an ultimatum to Israelis. You have to leave Jerusalem, you have to leave Palestine. We say get out or you're dead. We give them 2 minutes and then we start shooting. And that's the only way they will understand, he ended that with. That's the only way they will understand. Moderate talk. Let's take a look.
I want to remind you of how police work. When somebody tries to rob a bank, the police gets in, they don't negotiate, and we've been negotiating with them for 65 years. We say, get out or you're are dead. We give them 2 minutes and then we start shooting.
Oh dear. Now, this seems to me to be a direct call to violence, which is surely illegal in Canada. Now, I said at the beginning, my old friend, Elias Hazaneh, because while we were never enormously close, he appeared on my former television show many times, and I personally intervened with the Israeli Consul General to help Hazaneh obtain a visa to visit Israel, where he's from, actually. I'm not sure if the Israeli Consul General, who did indeed agree to help, is one of the people Elias wants to be shot. Hazaneh also helped arrange my trip to Syria. Now, we didn't socialize that much, but I did, for example, spend time with him at a party at the house of former Liberal MP Caroline Parish. Elias was there because he worked in Parish's office and was president of the Mississauga-Erindale Liberal Riding Association. She, in fact, recommended him to appear as a guest on my old TV show, and he often accompanied her when she herself appeared on that show. You may remember Caroline Parish as the MP who called Americans bastards and stamped on a doll of President Bush, then performing a voodoo spell on its head. She also had some, shall we say, challenging views about Israel and Palestine. But the plot thickens. Hazaneh wanted to run as a Liberal candidate in Mississauga, but was opposed by the Liberal Party at that time. He would go on to run unsuccessfully as a municipal candidate. His friend Omar Al-Habra did run, however, and he triumphed for a while, at least, a couple of years. He lost the subsequent election to a Conservative, though. When he won his original nomination, one of his supporters shouted from the crowd, "Islam will triumph." Now, this wasn't Al-Habra himself, but only a particularly eager fan. While no longer an MP, Omar is now an advisor to Liberal leader Justin Trudeau. He was Trudeau's volunteer engagement director. I got emails from him during the leadership, and all indications are that he continues to advise Trudeau today while he's Liberal leader. Could be Prime Minister. This past spring, Al-Habra gave an interview to Al Jazeera to tout Trudeau as, and I quote, an agent of change. It was in this interview that Al-Habra announced that Trudeau favors engagement with the mullahs in Iran. Engagement with the mullahs, the homophobic, crazy mullahs in Iran. And just last month, Al-Habra attended a dinner with Trudeau at the Islamic Society of North America, ISNA, in Al-Habra's hometown of Mississauga. If ISNA sounds familiar, recent media reports have indicated that it's in a bit of trouble with the Canada Revenue Agency for allegedly transferring a large sum of money to a violent extremist terror group in Pakistan. I strongly suspect that Al-Habra intends to run again in the next election, and if he's Trudeau's advisor on Middle East and Islamic issues, it could be cause for great, profound concern. I wonder what Shimon Fogel, Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, CEJA, sounds very important. Shimon, no one is arguing that the Liberal Party is about to become jihadist, but I'm deeply concerned about the influence, the rising influence of people who have, if not jihadist, radical ideas about the Middle East and Islam, who have more and more sway over the Liberal Party. The Jewish community doesn't vote as a community. People vote individually. They're liberal, they're conservative, they're socialist, or whatever. The Liberal Party was seen for many years as the traditional home, the safe home of Jewish people in this country. I would argue that sometimes the Liberal Party rather took for granted and exploited that Jewish support. Bob Rae resigning as MP, this is something of a watershed moment. Bob Rae, very close to the Jewish community, very supportive of. There's a changing of the guard. I'm not arguing for a moment that Justin Trudeau and people around him are anti-Semitic. That would be crass and absurd. I am arguing that whilst the Conservative Party has reached out over and over again to Jewish people on all sorts of issues, including Israel, but that's not exclusively, the Liberal Party has moved further and further away. Do you think that'll be reflected in the way Jewish people vote?
So I think that there has been a change in the pattern of Jewish voting over the last decade, and to the basic premise of your observation, I think that Jews, like other communities, are becoming more discriminating in terms of where they direct their support.
The things that Trudeau has said, the views of his advisors, I have to tell you, I mean, I'm not part of the Jewish community, but I do support Israel. I will be very concerned. I will be incredibly concerned at a weak person like Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister, surrounded by people who are not weak and who have very informed and radical views.
Today, there are nearly 350,000 Canadians who share with you their heritage and their faith. They are proud Canadians, but having met literally thousands of members of this community, I can tell you this. They are also immensely proud of what the people of Israel have accomplished here, of your courage in war, of your generosity in peace, and of the bloom that the desert has yielded under your stewardship. Lorene and I share that pride. Jewish people deserve their own homeland and deserve to live safely and peacefully in that homeland. That support today for the Jewish state of Israel is more than a moral imperative. It is also a matter of strategic importance, also a matter of our own long-term interests. Those who scorn modernity, those who loathe the liberty of others, and those who hold the differences of peoples and cultures and religions in contempt. Those who often begin by hating the Jews, but history shows us, end up hating everyone who is not like them. Those forces which have threatened Israel, the state of Israel, every single day of its existence, and which, as 9/11 graphically showed us today, threaten all of us.
It's a moment of choice. The lightness of being Justin may just be unbearable.
Oh!